everyone, it's Cindy. Welcome back to Studioloo. So today we are here for another exciting day of Junk Journal July, and it is day 13. So we're focusing on details today. And oh my, I I thought of about a million different things this morning, but I wanted to just kind of simplify things down. And also I'm on a bit of a use up your materials kick this week. I have an ongoing series here on this channel called Use Your Books, and it's different ways to use the inspiration from and actually physically use up your books. So today we're going to be using up a page of this very highly detailed, beautiful Japanese, I believe, please correct me if I am wrong. I often confuse Japanese and Korean, so I speak neither language, so I'm just kind of trying. I found these books, about 5 of them, in a thrift store one day, and I see them from time to time. I probably could have grabbed the details, but they're gone in this book because I've been using it so much. So this is a very beautiful and highly detailed illustration style that, again, makes me feel like Japanese, because so much Japanese work is highly detailed. It just seems to be innately part of the art culture in Japan. I was part of a pottery guild for many years, and we had a few Japanese members, and I used to just be so enthralled. I mean, the greatest ceramic masters in the world are Japanese, and I just think it's a part of, the culture to just be highly detailed. And this book very much speaks to that for me. I kind of hoard these pages. So if you've ever bought a journal from me and it has these inside of it in any way at all, know that it's special because they're beautiful. And there's so much going on. And this particular one, a lot of them are like forests and gardens and things, but this one has the buildings inside, which I absolutely love. Like, look at this, big, tall cathedral. It's a beautiful book. So I've chosen a page from the book today that's kind of like a market stall with a port here and some, trade stuff going on here. And then we have some music happening up here, and a crowd has gathered. And this is what's on this side, but we're not going to be probably using this side so much as we are this side. So the prep work that I did before getting started was I created 2 tags, backed them all book page. So this is 2 layers of book page, actually just from my current glue book, which is an old botanical book that I've harvested all of the good bits from. And so for me, details, they're multi-layered, right? In every little piece that we create, I sort of feel like I'm creating a little unique piece of artwork. And so details matter. Every detail matters to me, sometimes a little too much. Sometimes I can loosen up a bit. I mean, I try to balance it as best I can, but I think it's very fleeting with me. Some days I'm a little more obsessed with detail than others. So what I want to do is I thought about a couple of things. So I have all of these punches handy, though you could also just cut squares for this project if we're going to even do that. I'll see, because I kind of, my mind changes many times in a day. So I thought about, if we wanted to focus on details and create a tag that would like draw the user in to want to look at it closely, you could cut little squares of little things going on and just kind of tile them on here. But then, as I started to look at this page, I was like, oh, but, I would hate to cut up this boat. And instead I was thinking, how nice would it be to use these detailed bits and spend a bit of time doing some detailed fussy cutting work and using them as, we can create a scene from the existing scene on both of these tags. So you'll create like a little village on your tag. So the video will be broken up a little bit today in that I'm not going to make you watch me fussy cut, but because I do love you and I don't want you to be bored. So yeah, I'm going to work away on doing some fussy cutting, and I'm also going to try to be like to do something that's kind of interesting. So let me start with something simple. So you see this building here up at the top, it's actually kind of cut off. It doesn't have the whole building in the image, but it in itself is still really nice and really unique. So now we have just this little building. and it's cool. And so, you know, it can sit up here, I think, and we'll trim the excess off and we'll sort of see how, you know, we build our scene. So let me do a little bit with you. Because I don't want to just fussy cut everything out and then have a bunch of fussy cuts, because then you won't see how I go through the process of, you know, choosing and building my little scene here. So let's do a bit of it together at least. So try to use as much of the image as I can. Don't want to cut too much off. Here we go. And I think I also like the text in the background, because if you had a plain background, it wouldn't be as detailed. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't have to pull it up to your face to look at what was going on. So now I need, I think, like kind of something to kind of fill up this space quite a bit. So let's take, we'll go in for something large like this house. And I'll just kind of, probably I'll do a couple at a time. You know, these little scissors, they make fussy cutting a lot less painful, so it shouldn't take me a huge long time to do this. I've had my first quiet morning for days here. For the last week or so, we have been looking after, for a friend of ours, 5 baby chickens, little chicks. And so every morning has been a calamity of me getting my daughter ready for camp and feeding and watering chickens and getting everything else in the day done that I have to get ready in the morning. But today the chickens have gone home, so it was just dog walks, regular, get the kids ready for their various things. And my husband is off with our son today. He has a play group, and so I'm home alone. So if you're new here, as I know some of you are, some of you found me through Junk Journal July, which is great. Welcome. And I've had one person ask me, what's all that thumping and banging? What's that thumping? So I will give you the disclaimer now that as best as I try to keep things quiet, I do have 2 little kids and 2 dogs that are upstairs, and they do make a little noise at times. So you may hear things going on and wonder, okay, so yeah, I like that there at the bottom maybe, but actually no, I'm going to think of this like foreground, middle ground, and background. So if this is a town, you know, we need to leave room for there to be sort of, these could be like the streets, you know, you want to walk around in the neighborhood. So let's glue this one. Funny, speaking of town, I have a girlfriend who, she lived in the city most of her life, and now she's living in a place that's a little rural town, like a little rural area. And she was laughing because she's always saying to her partner, like, oh, we have to go to town. And it sounds like such a funny thing to her to say, because she's, you know, a city kid. And you know, I grew up in a little village, and our town was not much bigger. And she's joking about having to go to town, and it made me think a lot about like when I was a kid going to town. Okay, so I want to add water and this boat here at the bottom. So I'm just going to take a look-see about how to do that, and how much I'll cut off of the front of the other boat. Okay, I think that's going to line up pretty well. Okay, that's actually great luck. So I'm going to cut up here, and then I'm going to cut to just the front of the boat, and I'm going to cut this here. Now you'll find that like sometimes, even though you're cutting away, certain parts of your image, you can actually reshape something like the back of a boat to make it fit and still look whole. Like, you know, it's like a train, right? Who knew that there were 5 more cars on the back and you cut them off? That's okay. Now you've got a little shorter train. And then some little tiny things like this little things. Don't worry about having to fussy cut those. I'm not doing a loose fussy cut technique today. I'm doing a tighter one, right? So I'm not going to stress over tiny little things like that. This is what I want. So then I can put that down here. Perfect. There we go. Get rid of that page. Set this here for a minute. Okay, so then what I've noticed is I have one little problem. This blank space here, it's a little weird. It doesn't look how I think it would if there was a building there. So I'm just going to cut this little piece off the side here of the water, actually, because it kind of looks like bricks. So I'm just going to piece that in under here. Let me just set it down on the glue for a minute, and I'll peel up this little side. Okay, glue that in, piece it right there, kind of like where the end of that, you see how there's like a little umbrella type, what are those called, canopies on the front of the shop, where that ends. We need a little something right there. Let's cut off the excess. And see, that's creating a sensible little detail. Okay, so now we've got kind of the foreground, middle ground, background. Then we might want to put a couple little things on these roads to just fill this in and add a few more little details. So this might be the fussy cutting part that I'm going to do without you having to watch. So I'm going to, I'll get started here. I'll cut, we're going to have this horse and buggy. It's going to be here. Then down here, what would we like? We've got this guy pushing a cart, which is quite charming. But then we've also got this little market stall up here with these little barrels, and I think I will use those. I think I can cut that out. So see the details? And that I think I'll put here. Okay, so I'll fussy cut those out and come right back. Okay, so I have these little ones cut out. They're so cute, and that really wasn't that difficult. It's interesting. Like it looks kind of difficult, but I'm just kind of going around the cans, going around the legs. Like it wasn't too bad at all. So now I'm just going to glue these down. So I'm going to put these guys right in here. Okay. And I'll put the little horse cart over here, just because I think that's a nice balance. It takes the eye around things. So then what we have here are all the little detailed bits, right, on here. Now, you can choose, if you'd like to create a little shading here and there, like maybe underneath, like a little, just little bits of shading here and there on the road. Okay, because I know some of you that you might be feeling like, oh, this is so busy, it's making my eyes, so you can do this. Again, to me, the concept here is details. I like the idea of somebody trying to see what's going on and picking this tag up and looking at it. So I'm not going to stress about if the words are a little busy or what have you, but I'm just going to shade a little bit because I think that that's fun because I'm making this into, you know, the road. I can still see the letters behind, so they're still there. Okay, so that's one way. Now let's make another one. And oh yeah, don't pay attention to this crazy pencil. I do not know how I got the that's so long. I was doing something and it was not working. Okay. So now I want to try one with some green background. So I just got some of my grungy scraps here from some green paper that I dyed. And, you know, because this is like a market stall, I want to see what it will look like with a different kind of background, like a green background, but still have those nice detailed fussy cuts. And so far, I quite like how this looks. I love these pages so much, and it was hard for me to use them because I definitely hoard them. But this might be a nice way that I could also use them not just as pages, but I do want to use them as pages most of the time because they're super nice. This is some things where I feel like it's too sacred to use or something. And this is why I've got a lot of books still. Nah, I get through them. I do get through them. I'm sure some people are like watching my thrift hauls and going like, where does she put all her stuff? You'd actually be surprised how much I do use. I'm very like, use it up, use it up. I try to make a lot of ephemera. I always try to be making ephemera. Like I had one person in junkjournaljuly say, oh, interesting, you're not, you know, doing journal pages. And what it is like I kind of operate, I do journal myself, but I kind of keep that personal, and I do operate in a bit of a scale that I like to be creating things that are ephemera for the journals that I'm making, that I'm selling in my shop, because one thing sort of, it's like a stream. It all feeds, you know, the next step for me. I can buy more books if I use the ones up that I have. I can make more journals and buy more supplies if I sell the ones that I have. So it's like it's a process, you know, a fun one. So this one, I'm going to use much the same, I think, kind of methodology here. I'm sort of torn between using, like, this is going to be the middle ground, this piece, I know that, and then I'm trying to decide for the background, do I want to use these houses, or do I want to use this little thing up here with these little musicians? But I want to put maybe the boat at the bottom again because I like that. I could also put you know, this stack of things. We'll see. So I'll start with the middle ground because it's the one that I feel the most sure of. I gotta cut right around these little leggies of these little folks here. Okay. Little itty bitty space. There we go. Having a good pair of fussy cutting scissors really does make life a lot easier. I sort of held back for a while buying little fussy cutting scissors because I was like, oh, well, why do I need specific scissors for this? But no, it's true. Okay. Coming up around the bend here. And then I need to decide if I want that tree. Let me see what it would look like. I'll try both with and without this tree. Okay. I'm going to go without the tree. I think the bottom, the stump, like I would need to draw something that it was planted in, or it just, it doesn't fit right. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, I think I like that better. Yeah. Okay, so now that I'm looking at this, the angle of this tells me that I can't really use this big house on here. I didn't even quite realize the size difference. So what I might do instead, now if I look at this, the musicians, they could come down a little bit, but they might be behind the house. So that's another thing, is you can even, you know, kind of layer, because if you were having this aerial view down into your town, you would not necessarily be able to see, you know, everything going on. You would have things that were overlapping if you were flying above the town. But let's try cutting the musicians, around the musicians, and see if I can fit them in there. If I can't, I do have the option of using just this little cobble honey colored building. And okay, so if we go like this, I definitely want a lot of that building on there. Okay, yeah, I can do that, I think. Yeah, okay. So let's do this first. I want both those windows on there. Yep, okay. I'll snip off the excess. Get rid of the gluey page. Okay. And then we just need to decide on the foreground. So I've got the boat, the water, but I did do that on that one. We've got this man sitting on some wood that could be kind of cool down here. And the horse cart. Or I've got this big stack of things. I don't think I could fit both stacks. It's probably going to be too high, or it would just fit. The other option is to use the houses down here, and we get kind of a partial look at what's going on here. But maybe I will use that for another one of these tags. So let's just choose something and stop being so choosy. Looking on this side too, the other option that would be nice maybe too is just water and fencing in this tree. And we could add these folks here, these little people, if we wanted. Oh, there's a little, look at this little tiny girl right here with this bunny hat on. Oh my God, she's cute. I think I will try to do that. I like that. So not the boat this time. Let's just come up here. Look at this lady who's just hauling water with one of those, what are they called? I should know this. I used to work in a museum, in a kind of a pioneer type museum. That's okay. And this lady's just carrying all this fruit and a basket on top of her head. You know, it's funny, I often find when you're carrying a little bit of a heavy load, you can balance things so much better on top of your head. And I've totally done that. I think the last time I went to a book sale, it was really crowded. And when I was coming out, I was definitely carrying my bag of books on my head. Because I didn't want to, like, be in the way. I didn't want to, like, take up too much space, like carrying a bag of books. Like, be that person who wears a backpack in an elevator, you know? I didn't want to be that person. Because those are the worst people. The ones that clank you around with their backpack in the elevator. How's that for a little fussy cut detail, my little girl? I can hardly hold on to her. She's so cute, right? She's adorable, and I have to use her. So this makes me think about doing this little fine cutting, makes me think about, although nowhere near the scale, of those people, those incredible people I've seen, at least one artist, there might only be one, who they carve little tiny sculptures in the lead of a pencil. And then they have like macro photography, like up close, to show the details of the amazing work they do. Yeah, that's detail. Okay, so that's on. Now let's get rid of the excess here. Just gluing all sorts of things to my scissors here. Okay. Okay, now I think, where is my art glitter glue? Let's hope it's not all jammed up today. I'm going to art glitter glue her on because she's tiny. And if I try to use glue stick, she's going to slide away from me. I'll put her right there. So cute. Okay, so the other thing is that you can utilize as part of your details process is if you look at the background here, see these backgrounds they use? So this one looks kind of like cobbles on the road or these little tiny strands of grass. You know, you could go in and you could do that with like, you know, like a yellow pencil or something. Hold on. I don't have any like pencil crayons hanging around me. I have this I have randomness in here. What's this green look like? Maybe. These are the remnants of my daughter, like, robbing my stash of pencils and things. Let me see, do I have anything else? Nope. Okay, let's just use this. Let's not be a big picky pants here. So, if we want to create kind of a cohesive, you know, little markings. And this is what, you know, details. And this is where you lend your style. What's your style? Do you like, you know, dots? Do you like pointillism? Do you do mark making? Here's a way to kind of lend your style to whatever you're creating, you know, where you kind of blend like your artist with your maker kind of side. And that's a big conversation for a different day. But, and some of you may be going, why did she do that? I loved it how it was. That's part of the process. You know, I watch a lot of videos, and there's something to when people do things live or like on video and you're watching their process, the audience has a much more judgmental eye than if they were to see something when it was completely finished, because they've been given all these options as they went along, and each one of us is unique and would have made a different decision, right? But I guess what I would say to you in these situations is try to be open-minded and just enjoy the process that the other person took, and know that that was their true kind of calling to what they were doing, right? So yeah, Okay, so we've created what I think are two super fun and detailed tags. I do like the way this looks. I think it's very fun. I think if I got a journal that had these inside, I would definitely like be picking it up and looking at all the tiny little details, just like I do with the original book. Like really, I have to credit and thank this incredible book, because it really is, you know, it's the bulk of the beautiful work, right? It's just the book itself. So if you see these books, here's what the spine will look like. You'll see the characters here. If you see them in a thrift store, grab them, because they are beautiful and the possibilities are amazing. And maybe if you were just seeing it on a shelf and you just saw the writing, you wouldn't have thought about it, but look for the drawing, the details, right? So anyhow, that's my project for today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you'll, give it a try. Look at your little things. Also, something that's really fun. One of the unsung heroes of like the art that I love doing, and also combining with like my homeschooling, is Richard Scarry books. Richard Scarry has wonderful, beautiful details, and those books are quite accessible to everyone. And if you like childhood nostalgia and you like childlike things in your art, I know some people do and some people don't. That's okay. Give it a try. Check out Richard Scarry, because you're going to find some things actually are illustrated in a more sophisticated, not sophisticated, but like the manner you could use them is a little more sophisticated than like children's work. Although I think children's work is the coolest and it is very sophisticated. But that being said, I am rambling. So I hope you have a wonderful day and that you're having fun with Junk Journal July. And we'll talk again tomorrow. Bye for now.